Hello and welcome to our latest podcast episode. I've got Grant Daniels in the podcast studio here in Belfast. Welcome, Grant.
Hi, Gavin. Thanks for having me.
First question, Grant, what on earth are you doing in Belfast?
Well, a long story. You'll hear some of it now, but I'm actually developing a new self-storage facility in Belfast. Totally automated, completely different to what we're currently doing. And we have some physical sites in South Africa, which I'll tell you about too. But basically, we're setting up a new site, totally automated. We'll see how it goes.
Great. Well, thanks for coming in, Grant. So great to have you here. So I think, if we talk, so Grant, you also, maybe you could do a little bit of introduction to yourself.
Sure.
Because you have a few things you're working on in self-storage, so it'll be great to hear.
So life started out very differently, actually. I'm a chartered accountant. I spent 10 years in London as in private equity and corporate finance. And it's those huge London bonuses everybody talks about. I never seem to get those. So I felt that it was time to sort of maybe head back into or go into the family business, which was self-storage. My dad set up his first site in the mid-90s, actually. I think he was one of the first 5 storage facilities in South Africa. So it sort of felt right to sort of try to grow those businesses that he had set up. And they were really nice, sizable facilities that had low-hanging fruit, easy to increase the profitability and the revenue. And hopefully some of the skills I'd learned from my accounting background, I could help my dad improve the bottom line. And then as time went by, I now manage. We have 4 sites in South Africa. I manage the one really large site, our largest one, and then with my cousin, he manages the other 2 sites. And from there, the sort of in terms of operating it, we came across some of the sort of pitfalls or risks that we thought were quite risky, and we looked at ways to try and improve those to sort of make the business less risky and more profitable.
And that probably contributed towards the auction product.
And exactly.
Okay.
And so one of the things we came up against, that all storage operators have to deal with, is how do you deal with bad debt and and abandoned storage units. Those units aren't earning you any revenue. And they're very risky because these are people's personal possessions that you need to be very careful of, because there's a reputational risk there. Also, you obviously want to recover as much debt as possible, and you obviously want to get your unit back as quickly as possible. And at the time, what we were doing was we were bringing in basically one person who would look at the units and assess it and either say, I'll take all those goods for free, or I'll offer you an amount of money for them. So there was no market value discussion or attempt at trying to get market value for them. Also, it took a lot longer, to clear those units. So in terms of clearing units was taking a long time, and we weren't able to prove market value. So for us, I saw there was an obvious risk there. So I tried to understand what the mature markets are doing in places like Australia and the US. And what they were doing was they had these online auctions. And I think 80 to 90% of the markets of the self-storage industry in those countries were doing these online auctions. So from there, they were already doing it in Australia. I contacted the guys, some guys in Australia, the iBidOnStorage guys in Australia. So we said, let's give it a go in South Africa. And straight away for us, we went from recovering around 10% on the debt to over 60% on debt at our facility. So it really made a huge difference. And as I say, we could then prove the market value, what the market value, that we tried to get the best possible price and as close to market value as possible. So that's really how it all started. And from doing it in South Africa, it grew really quickly. We got the biggest brands in South Africa on board really nice and quickly as well. And then we took it to the UK. And in 2020, we started iBidOnStorage UK. And since then, we've got over 140 brands in the UK. We've got 14 of the largest 20 brands in the UK. We've got somewhere between 500 and 600 facilities all using iBidOnStorage in the UK. And then a year later, we went to Europe. And we now have over 50 brands in Europe. We've got some of the very largest brands in Europe. I won't mention who they are. Some of them want to stay quiet. But it's working really well. And operators are now able to clear units within 72 hours the auction closing. We process the payment as the auction closes, and then we transfer the money to the operators within 5 days of the auction closing as well.
Yep.
So it's made the process much easier, and it's de-risked the process for all storage operators. And everybody has this problem in storage.
So it's like an online storage wars. That's basically what it is. Yeah, you've got a lot of people bidding on somebody's unit.
Yeah, so I
on
mean,
the
we've
contents
got exactly. So
of
we've
an
got
abandoned unit.
an abandoned. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 20,000 registered bidders. In the just under 20,000, 18,000 in the UK, and we've got about 4,000 in Europe, and it becomes a bidding war. And our average price across the UK is around £250,
Okay.
and in Europe, it's around €200. Sweden's actually our best market,
Okay.
surprisingly.
Right. Yeah.
There must be a lot of storage wars going on TV there, but we do about €300 average price in Sweden. We've had some really amazing results.
So if you're a bidder,
Yeah.
if you're an operator, and that's probably more relevant to our listeners, but if you're an operator, somebody disappears, you take it through the whole sort of eviction process,
Yeah.
and that comes to an end. You're left with somebody's stuff. What do you take a few pictures, or how does it work?
Yeah,
then?
so either you can get a professional inventory done of the unit, and our recommendation is always to do as thorough and detailed inventory as you can.
Okay.
Or you can do, and which is our most cost-effective way, is to get your own staff to photograph the unit and draft up a detailed inventory, and then you list the photographs and the inventory on our platform, which takes literally 60 seconds. And then the auction's live, and you run the auction for 7 to 10 days. Some do it for 14 days. If your facility is really full, you can do it for. We've got enough bidders on the website now that we're getting 90% success rate across the board. Once the auction closes, we'll process the payment for the bidder. We'll email the storage operator the name and phone number of the winning bidder, and the bidder will receive the same. They'll get the contact number for the storage facility, and it's up to both parties then to arrange the collection. And it has to be done within 72 hours, and then within 72 hours, your unit's clear. If they leave anything behind, there's a cleaning deposit that's charged. So they'll lose the cleaning deposit. So, probably 95% of the time, the goods are cleared. And on the very rare occasion when they're not cleared, well, you get to keep the cleaning deposit to ensure that you've got enough money to clear that unit. And you set the cleaning deposit yourself. So most operators will set it at, say, £100 or €100. And then you, after that, or you can, as I was saying, you can actually make it a lot higher if you want to. If you've got something in there that's expensive to clear, you can make that £500 or £1,000. We've actually got a unit up at the moment with really heavy marble inside it, and that's £1,000 on a cleaning deposit on that.
Okay,
unit.
yeah. So if you're a bidder, so I'm just thinking of is this a good way to make money? You can go online, you see the pictures, you see an inventory.
Yes.
So it might just say fridge or whatever, and all this stuff, and then you put a bid on. Have you any stories of somebody getting opening up a unit and $10 million of cash sitting there on a pallet? Have you any interesting stories of people getting stuff for a really good value?
I know they're out there. Bidders also don't really want those interesting stories to get out there because they're trying to, keep more people off the platform.
Right, yeah.
But there are a lot of stories of, high-end watches being sold. So I can't, and there's always antique goods, but I'm not a person that I don't understand what is really valuable and what is not. So I'm not the expert on where the huge value is there. But there've been a lot of stories of, and there's always the high end branded goods, handbags and all sorts of various interesting things on there. So we've sold units for £10,000+.
Wow!
But so there is value,
So so if you're an operator listening to this and you have this issue where you have lots of empty units coming up, you can check out iBidOnStorage.com. What's the word they go to?
iBidOnStorage.co.uk.
Okay.
In the UK, and in Europe it's iBidOnStorage.eu.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so let's go back to the South Africa self-storage business. So is it 4 sites you said there in South Africa? 3 sites?
We have there are 4 sites, but there's 2 sites at one location.
Okay.
And then we've got 2 sites. So another 2 sites about 60 kilometers away in a little town called Somerset West. And then we're building a brand new site in a holiday town, actually. It's one of the fastest growing towns in South Africa, in Hermanus. So we're building a brand new site there. So that'll be our 5th site in South Africa. And so we hope to have 1,000 units at that site. It's a nice big one.
Oh, wow.
Right. About 10,000 square meters of land.
Okay. And so the 3 that you have, 3 that the
3 plus 1.
3 plus 1 that are open at the moment. And what are the sizes of them? What different sizes have you got?
So
how many units?
We have about 1,000 units at our site in Cape Town. That's the sort of 1 plus 1 site. So it's it's one location with 2 sites on it.
Okay.
And then we have about 600 units in Somerset West and about 200 units in another sort of holiday resorty town called Gordons Bay.
And then you have 1,000 more units opening up soon. And then in Belfast, how many units are you opening up here?
200 units in Belfast to begin with.
Okay. And so my understanding is the Belfast site plan is running it relatively remotely.
Yes.
How do you run the business in South Africa? Are they staffed? How do you? What sort of sites are they?
So in South Africa, we see it as a slightly different model, whereas labor in South Africa is really quite inexpensive. So our sites in South Africa are, I wouldn't say they're labor intensive. We have maybe 5 guys, 5 guys for 1,000 units. Doesn't sound like a labor intensive business. So 5 guys in Cape Town. And then we have a similar, and then 5 guys, I'd say, in Somerset West and only 2 guys in Gordons Bay. So I've spent a lot more time in Cape Town. So for me, I'm very hands-on. I can be there whenever I want to. I spend sort of half the week working, going through to the sites, physically inspecting it, making sure everything's running as it should. And then most of my actual time is spent on iBidOnStorage. But in terms of I can physically be there whenever I want to. And they're mature sites. So it's not a lot of, hard work going into, making sure that we're getting new clients in. All our sites are operating at about 95% occupancy.
Wow.
And but once you've been going for 25 years, we've got a lot of customers that have been there for 5+ years.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very easy business to run. It made sense to now start adding on new locations.
Okay. And so in South Africa, like how do you? Like you're in Cape Town. You're moving house. Like how do you reach people? Like how do you start? Like how do you market the business to people there?
So we market well. We make sure our signage on the buildings is really good. I think a lot of people overlook that, and everyone speaks about my next step that we do. But for us, make sure that your signage is excellent. It's well lit up at night, and hopefully in a sort of an area where there's a lot of passing traffic, and then your signage will bring customers to you as well. And then the obvious other method is Google Ads. So we have a Google Ads campaign manager. Sort of third party that we use, Kerry at Storage Box Marketing, actually.
Oh yeah, and
she helps us in South Africa, and she's going to be helping us in Belfast. And then so I'd say it's Google Ads is the main thing. We used to use Facebook, but we found it was good building the brand, but wasn't really bringing in any new customers.
Okay. Cool. Oh, so then Belfast, what on earth? Because I remember you told me this a couple of years ago when we first met, that you'd bought a site in Belfast, and I kind of thought you were joking. So what brought you to getting a site here in Belfast?
So I knew I wanted to expand the sort of our storage portfolio, and having lived in London for 10 years, I felt I understood the market here very well. And I should also probably add, being South African, as a South African, we're always looking to diversify a property portfolio, if that's your game, overseas. South Africa, there's a number of political risks. There's also currency risk in South Africa. So we felt that it would make logical sense to expand offshore if we could afford it. So we were limited by the cost and the capital expansion of a storage facility. So we looked at areas, and we knew that we needed to be a certain size to have a profitable storage operation. Yeah. So after spending about 2 years, once I moved back to South Africa permanently, we spent about 2 years looking for the ideal site, which needed to be a certain size and looking at a certain population in a town or a city. And we looked at various large towns in the UK, and eventually we fell on Belfast being, a sizable population. I think there's 600,000 plus in the wider Belfast, and there's not a lot of storage here.
Yeah.
And the land and buildings were a lot cheaper than mainland UK. So we could afford to buy something substantial enough to convert to storage in a highly urbanized area. So, we took the plunge I think it was 2018. And it also, one of the great things about the building we purchased, it had a tenant. It was tenanted, earning a great yield for 5 years, which gave us the opportunity to try and pay back some of the loan that we took out.
Okay.
And that lease has just come to an end now at the beginning of this year. And we're now converting, so we're converting half of the building to about 20,000 square foot of storage space. Okay. And the idea is in 5 years' time, when the new lease for the other half of the building expires, to convert the other half of the building to storage space.
Okay. And this is fully remote. This is your first fully remote site.
Yes.
With no staff on site.
Yes.
Are you nervous? You look nervous.
I am nervous. It's actually a completely different model to what we're currently doing, obviously. And it almost feels like I'm moving back into the storage game for the first time, although our family have been a part of it for, almost 30 years now. Yeah. And it's probably the one being fully automated and not having someone there on the ground telling me what's going wrong, what's going right, is probably the one thing that's really got me a little bit worried about it. Because I know the site's in a good location. It's got a lot of passing traffic. We're going to have excellent signage up. We're going to be spending on Google Ads. But not having anybody there does keep me up at night a little bit.
So what are you doing then so if you think, when I think about my sites, I sort of think about like people finding me, so like driving up prospects, getting them in the door on the phone, whatever, and then converting them into a customer. How are you thinking about that? How do you de-risk that being found? So you can probably do a lot of that from South Africa and advertising and all that sort of stuff. How are you going to handle them when inquiries do come in?
Yes.
What are you doing there to kind of make sure that you're providing a good service there and converting leads into customers?
So the first thing is we're lucky that the other half of the building that we've tenanted out is actually to a tiling shop. So I'm hoping that that's going to drive a lot of customers that are renovating their houses to, hopefully that also drives quite a few customers to us. Like I said earlier, we're going to make sure we have really good signage on a busy road. So that should drive customers to us. And we have staff who've been in the industry in South Africa for 10 plus years. They will be manning the phones.
Okay.
They will be driving a lot of the sort of the advertising from there. We know what we're doing. So I don't think the storage industry in Belfast is hugely different to the storage industry in any other city.
Yeah.
We know what drives customers to us. We know it's life-changing events. So we know. And we've also been on Google, advertising on Google Ads for a long time now. So I think we've got a good grasp of that. So, putting all of that together hopefully means that, it's just, although it's in a different city and it's fully automated, I think the drivers are all there to ensure their success.
And then what about, so somebody, you get somebody on the phone or online.
Yes.
They book and go through all that process. How are you going to handle move-ins with nobody there? What's the plan there?
So we are actually going to have a kiosk at the site. So when a customer arrives at the front door, there's a large kiosk that will light up. And if a customer hasn't pre-booked online, which is, I think, the way most people would do that, and they'll get the instructions, the app, and I think it will all be very clear. But if it's a new walk-in customer, we will have a kiosk on site that if a customer wants to speak to one of my staff, press the button on the kiosk and one of my staff members will pop up and it will be exactly like having a staff member right there.
Okay, yeah.
So that will help. We're also going to have, 30 plus CCTV cameras with two-way speaker systems. So if a customer's lost or there's a problem, we can direct them through the facility, take them to where they need to be.
And who's going to be monitoring that? Are you doing that yourselves or somebody else here?
So in terms of the security aspect, DSOC will be doing that.
Okay,
will be doing that for me. But in terms of the actual operational side, the staff back home will be doing that.
Okay, yeah.
So the staff will be answering all of the calls that are coming in from South Africa.
Okay, cool. So what about locks on the doors? So like if somebody turns up, How are you opening doors for them?
Yes.
How are they going to let themselves in? How are they getting into the unit?
Yes, so we're using the new OpenTech automated locks, actually. I think we're one of the first sites to be using them.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's going to be on every single door?
On every single
as well as the entrance doors?
Exactly.
Okay.
So when a client arrives at site, using the OpenTech software, they'll be able to access into the building as long as they've paid.
Mm-hmm.
They will have been allocated their unit number. They'll get to the unit number. They'll on the OpenTech locks, you can actually type in a PIN code if you don't have your phone with you. So you can access your unit using a PIN code, or you can use your phone to get direct access straight into the unit. And obviously, if a client stops paying, then access will be denied at the front door, and also obviously you won't be able to get into your unit.
Yeah. And then if they continue not to pay, their stuff's going to get auctioned off as well.
Exactly.
So you've been in self-storage for what, 10 years?
Yeah, so I joined the family business in 2017, so just under 10 years.
Okay.
But it's been sort of part of the DNA. My father was actually in construction. I grew up with it. It was in construction until the mid-90s, and there was a lot of political upheaval in South Africa in the mid-90s, and he pivoted and he went into self-storage, and fortunately he did, because it proved to be very successful.
Yeah.
And so I joined the business in 2017. A year after moving back to South Africa.
And since, so that's, what's that, 7 years or more?
Yes.
Have you noticed any big changes, customer needs or demands, or have you noticed any sort of big changes, any trends?
To be honest, I haven't seen changes from the customer side. It's for us, it's especially at the sites that we've been operating, that on my sites, I don't think it's a lifestyle choice yet, where it is in America. It's more of it's a need. And also I must say that at our sites, we actually focus on the more price-conscious customer. We're not the high-end customer. We don't compete with the top storage brand in South Africa. We are focusing more on the price-conscious customer that requires storage. We always see, it's certainly in the past, we saw storage as a requirement for somebody. Nobody really wants to spend money on storing their goods.
Yeah.
It's a requirement when you need to. When something's happened in life, if there's been a divorce, someone's got married, you've left home, there's been a death. That's I think the market we are more catered for, and those are, I think, maybe and also very much the price conscious customer. So we're the cheapest storage facility in our area, and our occupancy rates are 95% plus the all year round. So it's working for us. But you were asking about what changes, and I think the big changes is the software change. Guys like you, Stora, coming into the market, enabling us to up our prices. Rennie would probably say to you, if you're operating all year round 95% of the year, you're not really operating your business as well as you could. You should be increasing your prices, and you won't see a huge loss in customers. And software like Stora allows you to use demand pricing, increase the prices. And so actually we've just changed our software provider, and for the last 2 months, we have now started using demand pricing. We haven't seen any drop in customer base, and we have our churn at our main facility. We have about 50 new customers a month, and we drop obviously around 40 to 50 customers a month. That's 50 new customers paying 10% more than the previous customers were paying.
Yeah.
So it's hitting our bottom line. There's no difference in the costs in the business. It's just moving straight to the bottom line. So it really does make sense to use these new software platforms that really do help the bottom line. And then automation. I'm now able to continue spending 70 to 80% of my time on iBidOnStorage, and I'm still able to open new facilities by utilizing the software that's allows fully automated sites. And using a team that I've had in place for 10 years. It makes sense to use guys that have been doing this for 10 years and trying to train up somebody brand new into the industry. So for me, I think the real change in the industry has actually been the automation of it, and specifically the software, because the software allows the automation.
Yeah.
It all talks to each other.
And the idea that you can, from South Africa, open a self-storage facility in Belfast.
Yeah,
it's like a 10-hour flight away.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
The fact that you bought that you say you bought it in 2018, 2019?
2018.
So like you already had that in mind.
Yes.
Even back then, I'm going to run this remotely. But, if you go back 10 years, 15 years ago, that just wasn't on the radar at all. People just wouldn't have even considered that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that these automated sites it's already happening, but it's really going to be the real driver in the industry over the next 5 to 10 years.
I totally agree. And I think if you're just looking around the UK, even here in Northern Ireland, I've sold one of my sites, and we have some funds, and we're thinking, like, what should we do? Should we maybe consider we're going to expand one of the sites, but should we open up more sites? And just looking around, there's so much opportunity, but the opportunity really only exists. Like, I think the main opportunity is in the smaller urban areas where you just couldn't afford to have a staffed site.
Yes.
Especially in Northern Ireland here. Towns of 10,000, 15,000 people.
Yes.
And like, I'm looking at some of those places thinking like there's opportunity, and I think it's the automation, the remotely managed sites, that is such a big opportunity, and lots of people are doing it.
100%. And the other real opportunity is you and I both go to the Fidesa conferences in Europe, and it's very clear that Europe's very underserved when it comes to self-storage. I think this automation, it breaks down language barriers as well.
Yeah.
So before, for me to consider going to, say, the German market or the French market or the Italian market, language was always a concern for me. You don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
Now with automation, we see it on iBidOnStorage. The language barrier is not really there anymore. We've got customers in our best market is Sweden. I don't know how to say hello in Swedish. It's just crazy.
If you were getting started in self-storage now, brand new to the industry, do you have any piece of advice for people getting started?
I think one has to sort of go back to some of the basics in self-storage, and they always work. And I know Dean Beattie goes on about location, and he's right. Make sure you're in a good location that's underserved within the self-storage industry. So I think location's really important. I also think, I know I'm banging on about it a bit too much there, but signage is also massive. Spend money on your signage. Spend money on a good website. Make sure a website, is another employee. If you've got a great website, you're going to drive a lot of customers to your website.
Yeah.
So it's back to those basics. Make sure you've got a good website. Your location must be excellent. Access is also a big one. You want to make it as easy as possible. The customer journey needs to be really easy.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm, going back to the automation side, I'm a little bit worried about because I haven't experienced myself. I want to make sure that the customer journey from, booking online to accessing his actual unit is a very easy process.
Yeah.
My old facilities that I've got in South Africa, they're drive-up facilities. You drive into the gate, you drive up to your unit and you open it. It's really easy. And it's easy offloading goods from your car and putting them back into the car and, all that, you drive back out. So, make sure that that the customer experience is an easy one and a good one. And another, good advice is mystery shopping your own facility.
Yeah.
I don't do that enough. And sometimes when I do it, I've done it a few times in the past, and sometimes the staff, your staff will actually, take a little bit of umbrage at it. They'll think that you're testing there, but maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I do think, mystery shop your facility. Go through the whole process. Book a unit.
I think I would apply that to your online booking system too. Make sure that you know how that works.
Yes.
Do it yourself a couple of times. Cancel it. Like you don't have to put money through it.
Yes.
Just go through and see how that works.
Yeah. No, good advice.
Because with our store customers, it's 62% last year. 62% of bookings came through the website. So, and the majority of those are actually on mobile phones as well.
Yes.
So it's people, kind of on the go, maybe outside a site, at home, whatever it might be. And you've got to make sure that journey is clear and easy for people, because the number of times I go to, sometimes I'm checking out other self-storage operators' websites, and the amount of times the booking process is either really, really bad or it's broken. It's surprising how often that happens. Make sure that people can actually book. For the Belfast site, what are your plans around booking? You're going to let people book online?
Definitely.
Are you going to expose prices initially up front, or what? So a lot of people get prices behind a contact form. What do you think? What's your thinking there?
For me, I'm going to utilize the same strategy that I have in South Africa, which is I believe that price is something, especially on fill-up stage, that price is important, and it's quite important to try to keep your price lower in the beginning during fill-up stage. So particularly if one of your strategies for bringing customers on board is around price, you might as well expose it. Show the area, the potential customers that you're the cheapest in town.
Yeah.
And I think the guys that would prefer not to show price are probably only because they're the most expensive. I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't show price unless you're the most expensive, apart from, of course, being able to convert a customer and being able to actually phone someone and try to convince them to use your facility.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think for me, it makes if my facility is going to be one of the cheaper ones, it's definitely worth exposing the price. I don't know at Stora. What do you guys see? Do you think it's better to expose price
at Stora, or so just looking at our customers and all of them what they're doing?
Yeah. So I didn't mean like your two facilities.
Yeah.
At using if you look at all your
Stora
current customers,
it totally depends, and we actually we're only getting to the scale now where we can probably design like a scientific experiment to see what is the best way, because it's so hard. For example, we've had some customers who've been showing prices, just letting people go ahead and book, and then they've turned that off and gated it, because we let you do whatever you want. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to us really.
Yeah,
we want you to succeed, so we'll give you whatever you think you believe and is making you succeed. So we've customers who've shown prices and then hidden prices and then seen bookings grow quite a lot, but then it isn't. It might be they might have gone from 8 bookings to 14 bookings in a month, and that could be because it's, rather than being March, it's April.
Yes.
And or it could be that those numbers are so low that it's very hard to know if it's statistically significant. So I don't have an exact answer, but at some point in the future, I want to have that answer and to be able to say, here's the best way to run your business in this circumstance. Because it might be that if you're trying to be a cheaper option, it may be a lot better to show your price. If you're trying to be the most expensive, it may be better to actually hide the price and get people to phone you and have that conversation.
Yes.
And I do hear that sometimes with people who are trying to price premium, that they prefer to hide the prices because they see more bookings coming through because they get to talk to somebody. So it's not a great answer, because I have a theory, but it is just a theory, and I don't know. I haven't seen anybody actually present solid data that says one way or the other what's better. And I think it'll also just depend on the competition, the time of the year, all sorts of stuff. I do remember a couple of years ago, Dean and another customer, they did what I was just saying. So they showed the prices and they gated them, and it was like 2.2x up in their bookings.
Wow.
I looked at my site data for Portadown for the exact same period, and I was up like 1.9x or 2x in the same period. So, and I hadn't changed it. So,
I see. Okay.
So I hadn't made the change.
Yes.
And my bookings had doubled as well.
Yes. Okay.
So, that's why it all comes down to kind of time of year, and there's so many other factors. It's just hard to know. But yeah, we want to get to the point where we can tell our customers with scientific data, say, here's what we found. You make the decision now based on what you want to do, but here are our findings.
Yes. Ultimately, I think which sort of a conversation that carries on from what you were just saying, it's actually also comes down to that follow-up process.
Yeah. So,
even though my strategy is price, a lot of those customers are then phoning in. It's just like the guys hiding their price behind a wall. If your follow-up process is not stringent and almost to the point of annoying, which maybe some of my iBidOnStorage our storage operators, you will know that I'm not scared of sending out multiple emails to try to convert the sale. But when it comes to your storage facility, and it probably goes back to when you asked about what advice would you give storage operators. make sure that your follow-up process is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're phoning that customer within the first 10 minutes of getting the inquiry, and then follow it up with an email, and then 24 hours later do another follow-up, and then 3 days later another follow-up, and then a week later maybe your final follow-up. So I know that Dean also goes on about having a very good follow-up process, but I think that is a key to making sure that you convert those leads into sales. And I've seen actually, by the way, this morning on LinkedIn that, there's a new, on Stora, there's a new process. Well, you're making it easier for your clients to actually have a robust follow-up process. So maybe you can tell me more about that.
What a great opportunity. Yeah. Well, so the reason we did that, so that's our deals feature. Where it's kind of, we're trying to bring in things like people. A lot of people use HubSpot or Pipedrive, and what they use those to kind of bring people through. They set up a, email 1, email 2, phone call 1, phone call 2, and they bring it across from left to right across the screen, and they're tracking all their deals, and then they win or lose them, and they give reasons for the loss and everything. So we've built that into Stora because more and more of our customers are getting bigger. And some of the bigger customers tend to have more of that. Now, on my sites, and lots of our customers, they don't do that. And at my sites in Northern Ireland, we answer the phone if somebody calls, but we don't have a follow-up process. We just let people book online. And the reason for that is, I think we probably would convert more. Like, we unquestionably would convert more if we had people ringing up ringing up our prospects. But the sites are quite small. And so for me, it's like, what's the cost of hiring an additional employee to do all that? It's too high. So I'll not get a return on that additional person. Now, if we had 5 sites or 10 sites, it would be worth it because you'd actually have enough people coming in where you'd get a return on investment. So whereas lots of our customers, they're bigger customers, bigger operators, they've maybe got 10 sites, so they have these staff and they have these follow-up processes. And we have a lot of our customers are using this deals flow now. And, I know of one big customer we have, and they have a team in India already doing other stuff for other parts of their business, and they're now using this to convert, and they're seeing a huge uplift in conversion of inquiries to customers.
Interesting.
So that's the reason we've done that, is because just more and more people. It's to try and make that easier.
Yes.
Ultimately, we want to help people make more revenue, get more customers in, and that's why it's there.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, so we're doing something similar to what you've made look and feel and make the process much better. We use Excel spreadsheets.
Oh, yeah.
As a customer inquiry comes in, he's the first one on the board, and then we have columns for the 10 minutes phone call back, and it's a shared Excel spreadsheet, and I want to be able to log in whenever I want to, and then if the staff haven't, I need to see each of those timelines that they've hit them. Yeah. So you're just making that a lot easier, and not having to, as a owner, not even having to go into multiple different areas of managing the process. If it's all done under one software provider, it just makes the process much easier to manage.
You mentioned 10 minutes. Why is it 10 minutes? Why is it? What's the need for speed there?
I think it's, from my thoughts around that is just that, while the lead is hot, and you've paid for it, it's cost me money to get that person to phone in to the site. And while they're thinking about it and probably phoning competitors, let's get our foot in the door and actually make sure that, we're following up with them while they're thinking about self-storage, maybe in 2 hours' time, and, they're fetching their kids from school, and, it's the furthest thing from their mind. And you know what? And your competitor, he's phoned them. Yeah. So that's the other thing.
And it's likely that they're on Google, they've searched self-storage Cape Town or whatever.
Yes.
There's probably 5 results. They might have called the first 3.
Exactly.
And, if you're not, if it's likely, I imagine, I've heard this many times, the first one they talk to, if they're going to talk to somebody, it's the first one they talk to that they'll probably go with.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, for various reasons, especially with software sales, that's one of the things that we focus on. If somebody gets in touch with us, we want to get back to them really quickly to talk about Stora, because we know that there's a much better chance if we get a conversation with them, they'll become a customer.
It makes sense. Unless it's the price-conscious customer that I was talking about. Yes, then they will phone around everywhere.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't maybe want those customers all the time. In self-storage, because at my self-storage sites, I was in Portadown and Dungannon, the most expensive compared to container sites. Yes. And people ring up and they want a good deal. You just say, look, we can't match that. Like, that's... Yeah. You're better... Here's a container site nearby. That's probably going to be the right price for you. And I've often been tempted especially during the Philip phase at my first site when I was nervous, like you probably are about Belfast. It's like, oh my God, how am I ever going to, am I going to lose a lot of money here?
Yeah.
I remember one time at Christmas, I put together this like 20-foot container deal, even though like I was an indoor site, and I priced it to match a local container site.
Interesting. Okay.
And after a couple of weeks, I took it off and I thought, why am I doing that? That's, I'm underselling my product here. I've invested to build a much superior storage facility here. And, if somebody's price conscious, I should be comfortable enough not to let them go somewhere else.
I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to, the maturity of the facility. And if it's a facility where you're in growth phase, I think you're willing to take any customer that comes along just to get some money in the door, start paying off that debt and, making the business wash its face. But, at our mature sites, we used to do a lot of discounting at our mature sites. We don't discount at all anymore. Right. In fact, we have a customer right now who's got 40 units. And at one stage we were thinking to ourselves, well, let's give this guy, 5% discount on all on each unit to make him stay. And then, when I started thinking about the numbers, it just doesn't make sense to be giving this person a discount. We're 100% full on those particular units. The only units why we're 95 and not 100% is because of our parking, actually.
Okay.
But otherwise, we're 100% full. And to be giving somebody discounts when you're 100% full, this makes no sense at all. Yeah. So now what I do is I use software like yours to run a report which customers are getting discounts. And you can see straight away, there's a list of 25 customers, they're all getting discounts. And now I can go, very quickly, well, that's not going to stay like that. They're not going to get discounts anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. We've a really cool feature coming up soon, actually, about we're building a pricing tool, which is going to bring a lot of that information up and allow customers to really quickly change. Well, not necessarily change, but you can decide yourself.
Yes.
But it'll bring up and show, here's who's below list price.
Yes.
Here, just so this person's at 20%. Maybe it's because Sony moved in 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And your price is now 20% higher. This person is 20% below your list price.
Yeah.
Just so and then you can do something about it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done around that.
No, as an owner, that's the sort of information that I need to make better decisions and improve my bottom line.
Yeah. So what about trends for the future of self-storage? Where do you, if you could fast forward 5 or 10 years, what trends do you see shaping it? And maybe you could even answer in the context of iBidOnStorage. Are there things that you're working on that are coming in the future?
So, I think the industry everyone's going to start doing online auctions at some point. It's the method that makes the most sense to get rid of, abandoned goods.
Yeah.
You can prove the market, set the price. You can clear your units faster, and you can get better pricing. Because ultimately, the way I look at online auctions is not only am I getting a better customer for the storage operator, I'm getting a better price for the customer whose goods we're selling.
Yeah.
In the old days, like I said with my facility, somebody would come in and they'd just pull a price out of their thin air. Whereas now, at least I can help that customer pay off some of his debt. And often, a lot of the time, we over-recover on debt. And, that at least that customer doesn't have that debt anymore. And maybe the storage operator will even pay him back some of the cost of some of the money that he earned on the unit. So I think in the future, everybody will be doing online auctions in some way or another. And in terms of what we're looking at, we're starting to bring AI into iBidOnStorage, which especially for automated facilities who don't have staff on site, and when a unit is cleared, we want to bring in a new tool where the bidder can photograph the unit. He needs that photograph is then uploaded onto the storage operators section of iBidOnStorage, which then we use AI to identify if there's still any objects within the unit. If it's a clear unit, we will automatically pay the cleaning deposit back, because we're now taking cleaning deposits for these automated sites. And if there are still goods in the unit, his cleaning deposit's not repaid, and the operator's informed, and then he can organize a cleaner to come in and remove those goods. And obviously, anyone who doesn't remove goods on iBidOnStorage, their bidding profile's banned as well. So that can't happen again by the same bidder.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. I've considered a similar thing as a part of a move-out feature with Stora. Because even if it's not an auction, it's just a move-out. You want to know if the unit's clean.
Yes.
And ready to rent out again. So one way to do that would be a photograph uploaded to the portal, which is then checked and confirmed.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, we haven't done it. I can imagine it's probably hard enough because you could just download a picture of an empty self-storage unit and upload it.
Yeah,
so,
it is something that I made that comment as well. But there's various things that we were also thinking about. You could put a code that what are they called again? Those
the QR code.
You could put a QR code in each of the units, and then the person taking the photograph has to scan the QR code, which will then identify that he is in the unit that he's saying that he's cleared.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Cool. Okay. So is there anything that just finish off then? Just like if you can think for 10 years into the future of self-storage, like if there's one big thing coming that's going to change stuff, what would you say it is?
Probably at the risk of repeating myself, but I actually think the software providers, guys like you, are changing the industry, because you are allowing people like me who are managing a business that's totally separate in maybe a faraway place to actually expand our portfolios into cities and towns, in foreign countries, and expand our portfolios. So I see the automation of storage is really going to be the growth driver. It's already the growth driver, but I can see it for the next 10 years. That's going to be the main driver to making sure that us operators remain more profitable, are able to open more sites, and probably actually drive valuations as well. With software like yours, it really makes the whole the operation very transparent. And whereas before it was quite hard to, when it comes to valuations, fine, you can look at your annual financial statements, but this is real-time data.
Yeah.
From right now, this is what we did. This is how many customers we had yesterday. This is what we've got today.
Yeah.
Whereas financial statements, could be 11, 12 months old. It's much more difficult. So I think it's what's changed the most in the industry, and what's going to continue to drive the industry is the software and where that's going to lead us. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks very much, Grant. Great to have you here. And good luck with your new site. Hope it goes well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
At Stora, our mission is to help our customers build the best self-storage businesses. Self-Storage Explained is here to try and bring you the best from inside and outside the industry to help you grow your business. If you want to find out a bit more resources, go to stora.co to sign up for a demo or find out more, or you can go to stora.co/academy for lots more resources, including our financial model and other in-depth guides to setting up and growing your business.